Getting rid of the idea of forbidden foods was one of the best things I ever did for my weight loss. My whole life, I've had problems with my weight. I've always been kind of a chunky kid, and even into when I was a teenager, and eventually I slimmed down in college. And then, of course, I gained weight with my pregnancies and everything. I would say most of my life, I've been overweight. And because of that, there were certain foods, because I was constantly on a diet and everything, I always felt like if I was overweight, I just wasn't allowed certain foods. Like it was like forbidden. I would always feel all this emotion around, things like desserts, for example. If I was overweight and I was sitting there eating a donut, I felt like everyone was looking at me thinking, she shouldn't be eating that donut. And then, of course, then in my mind, I think, well, yeah, I'm going to have this donut. And what would happen? I would overindulge. In January of 2016, when I got very clear on my plan, I said I'm going to do intermittent fasting 6 days a week, cheat day on Sunday, walk 6 miles every day. And I told myself, as long as it's within my eating window, I can have whatever I want. And there was absolutely to be no guilt for eating any kind of food, no matter how rich or delicious or, sweet, or how many carbs or how many calories. Dessert is totally on the menu. And of course, I was afraid at first that this was going to lead to me like blowing up like a balloon because I was finally allowing myself all the foods. I told myself if that did happen, I would stop, but I just kind of wanted to run this experiment. So then a funny thing happened. When there were no forbidden foods, it was like those forbidden foods kind of lost their luster. And I'm not talking all at once, and I'm certainly not saying I don't still love double stuffed Oreos, because I do. But it reminds me of this story that my papa told me one time. Back when he was a kid, him and his friends would go and sneak in to this farmer's watermelon patch. They would sneak and steal watermelons and sit there and eat them, and it was just like the best watermelon ever. And then one day they met that old farmer on the road, and he said, "Hey boys, I've been meaning to tell you, I've got this watermelon patch, and I wanted you to know I'm growing more watermelons than I know what to do with. So anytime you want one, you just go and get y'all however many watermelons you want." And they never went back and got another watermelon because the guy had taken all the fun out of it. I think that's really what has happened with me with the idea of forbidden foods. All those things I used to think were, bad, I couldn't have. It's just kind of like now that I know that I can have them, I just don't crave them like I used to. When I first started doing this, dessert was on the menu a lot more. It's like, oh, I get to have dessert. Ooh, I get to have dessert. But I'm still losing weight. It was a lot easier to not feel guilty because it was like, okay, I'm allowing myself this. No guilty feelings are allowed, and I'm still losing weight. So it reinforced the fact that I could have those whenever I wanted. Now, of course, this is a couple of years down the line. Desserts are just not something I crave very often. Whenever I do crave them, I have them. And I've noticed there's certainly a correlation there between like different times of the month, like right before my period, yeah, I'm going to be craving chocolate especially. And I'll eat it whenever I crave it. One thing I've noticed is I tend to be kind of pickier now. There's no emotion attached to it anymore. Now it's like when I'm eating the thing, I'm not worried about all the emotions going with it. I can really focus on how does this taste? What, am I enjoying it? And what I've noticed is there are some things that I used to think, oh, since I can't have it, I really, really want it. Nowadays, I realize they don't really taste that great. Like, for example, the other day, we bought a box of granola bars, like chocolate chip granola bars, because we've been going on hikes and stuff, and it's kind of a way to bribe our kids. The day that we went on the hike, it was right in my fasting window, so I couldn't have a granola bar then, but I told myself, I can either have it, with my supper that night or, on cheat day. And it ended up, it was cheat day before I remembered the granola bar. I took it on my hike with me, and I was all excited, like, all right, yeah, this is going to be awesome. I ate it, and it was so disappointing, and I realized, like, this is always what it's tasted like, but it's just, like, again, lost its luster. And another thing I've noticed is I tend to stop a lot sooner now. Before, because I had all those emotions, I would overindulge. I would eat, 2 or 3 pieces of cake instead of just the one. And now I tell myself, eat however many pieces you want, and normally I stop at 1. But if I want to, I go ahead and eat it. But it's just one of those things. It's a really weird, counterintuitive thing for me, but it's worked so well. And I love that I don't feel that guilt anymore. I'm curious to know, have you ever tried this experiment, like where you really did just let yourself have anything you wanted, no guilty feelings allowed, and how did it turn out for you? Let me know in the comments below. Okay, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below.